Coolio. Okay, let's open a blank doc. And let's put on some good old contemplation. Let me mute myself so I don't get a feedback loop going on. Welcome, welcome. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna check this out real quick.
Good morning, Magic.
Oh, geez,
I'm
that is
Gavin
loud.
Gray from Wizards of the Coast. Now, we just released the Strixhaven Commander decks. For the building blocks of what would become the Commander decks today.
Okay.
I look back at these decks with a lot of nostalgia. You know, legends like Zedru, Carador, Dominator, Talia of the Vast, and Animar led the way for the kind of cards we make now. Cards like these really set the tone for where we are today. I mean, I remember seeing Zedru for the first time, and my mind just expanding at what it can do. Wait a second, your Commander's a card that gives your opponent your cards, and then of course, how can you use that? And you figure out, maybe I want to use auras, or cards that my opponents don't really want to combo with it. It was a lot of fun, and definitely a deck building book. And those 5 original Commander decks really did pave the way for all the Commander decks that came after these. They were such smash hits that we started putting Commander in the schedule for every year. And I look back at each Commander release with its own set of memories, its cards that hit, its cards that missed, and the cards that were probably a little bit too powerful. Flash forward all the way to today. Commander has gone from a format that most players had never heard of to perhaps the most popular way to play Magic in the world. I mean, that is huge. One of the things it's done that I think is really powerful is become a common language for everybody to play Magic under. It used to be that if I met up with my friends and I said, let's play Magic, I'm gonna have a standard deck, and you might have a modern deck, maybe someone else would have a legacy deck, someone would have a 60-card casual deck, and we wouldn't know how to all play together. But with Commander, that's all unified. Almost everybody, it seems, had
Okay, I don't need a history lesson. I just want to know what's
all kinds of
next.
mechanics, anything goes, you're never quite sure what's going to show up. It gets complicated. Anyone who's ever tried teaching a game of Commander can probably guess there's a lot going on. And we've had this philosophy for a long time, and year in and year out, we decided that Commander products were not going to be a place for new players. But then, something interesting started happening. We started hearing reports of players teaching other players through Commander. And these reports started off small, and then grew, and grew, and grew, and grew, until we were hearing about a ton of players who were coming into the game through this format. Now, I believe there are 2 main reasons why this is. The first is that while Commander is very complicated, and there are a lot of mechanics, and yes, even phasing does Magic, I'm not going to tell you, hey, go buy some kind of intro pack and come back in 4 months into a community of players. So for the foreseeable future, you can expect to see Commander decks with most sin releases. They have all that teaching upside and being great for someone entering the game, while also being way more attractive than a Planeswalker deck to someone who's already playing Magic, with new cards and some awesome new deck you can go and play. By being attached to our standard releases, it's also a great way to broaden the world. For example, with Strixhaven, I thought it was really, really cool that the Commander decks let us see more of that world, and also expand on mechanical themes. We got to see things like green-blue tokens and red-white artifacts really blown out, but they weren't as big of a piece of the main set. It also helps us make sure that decks from the main set get a legend support them without that legend having to go in that main set. For example, Kaladesh didn't have room for a blue, green, red energy commander. But if there were Commander decks, it could have gone in there, and it wouldn't have had to worry about the problems it might cause in Standard. I also want to say that while right now we're doing a lot of these Standard world-type Commander decks, that's not to say that we won't ever do some of the old-style Commander decks that are more generic and from anywhere and everywhere in the multiverse in the future. I mean, I love those, so I'd love to see them happening at some point. Alright, so now that I've said all of that, let me walk you through the Commander decks that are tied to our set releases for the rest of the year. Now, so far this year, we've had Kaldheim and Strixhaven Commander decks. Modern Horizons 2 will not have Commander decks, but coming up shortly thereafter is Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, which has 4 Commander decks. And these are very much in the vein of the Strixhaven Commander decks. There are 17 brand new cards per deck, and they're all built to play against each other. This is kind of a special thing doing 2 big Commander releases in a year, but it was Dungeons & Dragons. We felt it was a perfect tie-in. After all, Dungeons & Dragons players coming into Magic will probably find Commander the format most interesting to them. It really mimics that group play feel of Dungeons & Dragons. So we're super excited to have 4 decks coming out with the set. And then, coming later this year, with both Innistrad Midnight Hunt and Innistrad Crimson Vow, we have 2 Commander decks with each of them. And these are very much in the vein of the Strixhaven and the Adventures in Forgotten Realms Commander decks in pretty much every way. For example, the Zendikar Rising decks had 3 brand new cards in them. The Kaldheim Commander decks had 8 brand new cards in them. This time around, these decks have 15 brand new cards in each of them. So why
so they're
15
pushing
cards?
Commander
Why not 8 like
even
Kaldheim, or even
harder.
all the way up to 17 like Strixhaven? Well, I unfortunately can't quite get into it today, but there is a reason, and I'll be able to tell you a little bit closer to the Innistrad sets releasing. Stay tuned. And although the decks are being released 2 at a time as each set comes out, and they play great individually, I'll also say that once both sets are out and all 4 decks are available, you can pick them all up and have a great little Innistrad bash of playing all 4 decks against each other. That's it for this year. And while I can't get into 2022 quite yet, I can say you can expect to see this kind of cadence continue, with a mix of both 2 deck releases and more than 2 deck.
Okay, so like all that mattered was like there's just more Commander decks. Anyway, modules. Let's do some sales management. Okay, man, there is so much crap here. Okay. I'll paste that. Hold that. Let's start taking some notes. We'll only be live for just a little bit.
We will talk about personal selling, job activities, and the sales process. So we'll start by looking into the salespeople's job activities. We'll start with a question. What is the most important asset the salespeople manage in the organization? And the answer is one, and unique. The answer is customer base. So the clientele, the customer base, right? It goes without saying that it should be the most important asset the salespeople manage for their organization. And this is more so the case in B2B exchanges, business to business. Okay, business to business. Let's remember the role of a sales rep in a business to business exchange. The sales rep represents their company in the eyes of the customer. So the customer becomes de facto the most important asset for the sales rep and its organization, their organization. Self-management, right? Self-management. The salespeople must manage themselves. Here we have the application of the Pareto principle 80-20, meaning that usually 20% of the salespeople within the sales force produce 80% of the revenues. So this is a good case to talk about optimization. In other words, a sales manager should try to improve the capability and performance of those 80% of the sales force so that they can improve their performance. Prioritize, right? Prioritize. Set objectives and goals. That's what a salesperson does. They are responsible for setting their own objectives and goals. They are doing work, they're setting up their time and territory function, meaning that they're managing time, work habits, and sales productivity. All these need to be managed in a way that ultimately produces customer satisfaction. Execute. They plan, salespeople plan for efficient execution. They are responsible for planning their own execution. In other words, a sales rep these days is more so working as an entrepreneur than anything else. They are, when they're out in the field, sometimes for weeks upon weeks, what they're doing, they're on their own. They have to be disciplined. They have to have a schedule, to abide by it. As a result, they're on their own. So they have to be, by definition, disciplined and performance oriented. So the efficient execution rests on the fact that they're planning their own sales calls, sales visits, right? Frequency of calls, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, next we have the evaluation. We are continuing to talk about salespeople's job activities. Evaluate. They analyze and assess sales results for improving productivity. As a result, they are able to evaluate their own performance and produce their own feedback. As a result, they can go back to see how they can improve their performance, such productivity. Control is the next one. They are responsible for writing their own sales reports. Those sales reports go back to their organization. And last but not least, the organizational activities. Here we need to look into how organizations support sales people. They support salespeople by providing administration to them, by providing market information, that is leads from the market, and by providing training and motivation. They're able to motivate their sales force.
Alright, my spelling has not gotten any better. Okay, let's see. Always correct to organization.
Organizations do. Next, we have to look into the sales process. Steps for achieving a sale. This is called a sales process. Sales process.
Actually, wait. What is this? This is Module 1, Lecture 2. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Make it 16. That looks fine. Sales process. Uh-oh. Interesting. Hi, Knight. What am I doing? I am doing sales management. I'm not sure why I chose this class. I just knew that I needed this class to get the professional sales minor that I'm trying to go for. So it's one of those things where we're gonna see if I can, one, not fail, and two, actually pick something up. Prospecting is finding potential buyers, creating a pool of contacts. Finding prospects for 2 reasons. Replacing lost customers and increasing sales. Okay, we'll do tab in. Bold for sources.
This is very critical.
Okay.
It is the most important part of the sales person.
Oh, that is dark. I mean, I guess it's not really dark, it's just odd. Let's see, leads, which are I'm assuming an effective customer means current customer. At least that's what I'm assuming that means. I could be wrong. Wait, what is... Wait, I need a... What's the difference between leads versus referrals? So it's... leads aren't sorry, leads aren't customers, current customers, because that's the second source, customers. Current most viable sources. Referrals are, I guess, okay. So a lead is just in general anything that like gives you a contact. A referral is a formal lead, which is like kind of confusing. And then and here also a qualifying prospect means they are both willing, they have both authority and economic capability. Able. Okay, then there's also the... What's the last one? Orphans.
Job activity. Steps taken for achieving a sale are: first, prospecting. Prospecting means to create a pool of prospects, of customers, right? So finding and qualifying would-be sales prospects, you do this for 2 reasons. First, you always want to increase sales. You always want to increase revenues, market share, right? And second, for replacing lost customers. Customers sometimes defect, right? They abandon their supplier and they go with another supplier, right? So there are 4 sources for identifying prospects. Four sources for identifying prospects. The first is leads. Leads you can obtain from an effective customer. An effective customer, right? Who is effective? A customer is called effective in marketing when the customer satisfies two criteria. First, economic capability. They're able to make a purchase, to do a transaction. They're economically capable. And number two, they are ready, willing, and able to do it. They are there, ready to make the purchase. Those two together define the level of effectiveness of a given
Okay, well that's annoying. I can't tell what this last word is.
customer. Number two, from customers in general. These are most viable sources for finding new prospects. Third, referrals. A referral is defined as a formal lead. A lead that a given customer gives to the sales rep. Fourth, orphans. Orphans is a viable source, a very good source. Orphans are those customers whose salesperson has left the company, and in many cases, that sales rep is taking the business with them. And now, qualifying. Qualifying means that the prospect has both the authority to make the purchase and economic capability to buy, as I mentioned earlier. Criteria for qualifying prospects are profitability, compatibility, eligibility, accessibility, right? These are the four.
Okay, so I'll write this here. What is it? Profitable, compatible, eligible, and accessible. Cry. There we go.
Criteria for qualifying prospects: profitability, eligibility, compatibility, accessibility, and so forth and so on.
Let me click something. Oh, right. I have reset the computer, so I can't. That's annoying. Ooh, dropped my mouse. Drink something. Yeah, I'll probably go get a... I'll probably get something to drink in a bit. I just started, so it shouldn't be too difficult, hopefully.
So on. So here, when we're talking about eligibility, we are talking about worthiness. Is the client, is the customer worthy? For major companies, for instance, a small customer may not be worthy. Okay, their revenues, their sales potential is not that great for them to make an investment in such companies. So eligibility would be addressing the worthiness of a company to choose. Now, on to again steps taken for achieving a sale. Continuing, on to step number 2: pre-call preparation. Pre-call preparation is deciding on the offering and on initiating contact with the customer. Pre-call preparation is essential because it helps build self-confidence to the sales rep. It develops goodwill and trust for the customer, right? It shows professionalism to the customer because the sales rep going for the presentation to the customer will be well prepared to answer questions and concerns. And it increases sales because of being prepared to better handle customer inquiry. Step number 3 of the sales process, it is sales presentation planning. Sales presentation planning here, the primary objective here is to look into what are the customer needs. What are the customer needs? It determines sales goal objectives, right? And what are the needs of the customer and what type of profile does the customer have? These are questions that need to be answered meticulously because they will help the sales rep later on to answer the questions and the concerns during the adaptive presentation, mode that they will use. It is complex, but also very important and very complex. Okay, the salesperson here analyzes customer needs, develops customer profiles. As a result, when they go to actually make the presentation on the sales call, they are very well prepared because they will know the customer's needs and they will know who the customer is, the physical person to whom they will have to make the presentation. And the fourth step to the sales process is the appointment, the appointment and meeting with the customer. The appointment and meeting with the customer is the step before the last one for the sales process. The salesperson here ascertains customers' needs. They know exactly what the customer's needs are, and they initiate the contact with the customer. In fact, the incipient contact, the first contact with the customer, is ultimately critical. Now, fifth step.
Appointment meeting customer. Let's see. Full first impression is critical. Sales rep ascertains customers' needs. I want to move this margin so we get a little bit more space. Ooh, that rag looks bad. Okay, let's move that back a bit. There we go. That's a little better.
Is exactly what the customer's needs are, and they initiate the contact with the customer. In fact, the incipient contact, the first contact with the customer, is ultimately critical. Now, fifth step, the final step to the sales process before we actually go into identifying concerns and see customer commitment and relationship orientation and all that. The fifth viable, highly complex, active step to the sales process is a presentation. The primary objective here is to provide knowledge to the customer, product knowledge, right? Product knowledge of the customer, to resolve issues of concern of the customer, and to create a positive atmosphere with the customer. Needs here should be covered. The needs of the customer are covered because the sales rep knows their product very well, and they are able to pair product attributes to customer needs. This step sets the stage for cultivating a relationship and for converting a transaction into loyalty. Step number 6 now, going into the secondary steps that are there for the purpose of building up, of securing the success of the previous 5 steps. Step number 6 is identify and ease customer concerns. The way to best achieve that, or to attempt that, is to use the consultative selling model by which to create a relationship. A consultative selling is an effective selling. It is strategic selling. It requires salespeople to understand their customers' needs and to help customers see the deeper importance of those needs. Then they show the customer how their products might meet those needs best. This is the consultative approach. Step number 7 is seeking customer commitment. You seek customer commitment once you have arrived at this point. This customer commitment would focus on consummating the sale, getting a transaction, right? Produce a transaction, but a transaction should not be produced by undue pressure. In other words, never pressure the customer into the
Never pressure the customer. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Execute the sale, but not by pressure. What does undo mean? Okay, excessive, disproportionate.
the transaction. The customer needs to be ready to place the order, to give you the transaction. And step number 8 talks about post-sale relationship cultivation. Again, this is a synergistic approach. To build a longer-term relationship is an approach by which you get to benefit from synergies. Synergies, 2 + 2 makes 5, right? You do that when you develop loyalty and trust. And now, of course, we need to talk about trust. We all know what loyalty is, right? Trust is a very important, complex issue. And the question is, what develops trust? How do we develop trust? How does developing trust, and what does developing trust require? It requires 4 things. Honesty, it requires competence, and competence here is simply determining your capability as a sales rep to determine customer benefits, which helps in structuring the sales presentation. So competent is the person who is going to actually be able to develop the presentation by looking into what are the customer's benefits to be derived from my product. Third is dependability, and fourth is customer orientation.
Ooh, that was perfectly 1 page long. Nice. That's been 26 minutes, even though the thing was 18 minutes. Well, I guess technically I did watch a video, so... Okay, let me cross this off. Where's my Sharpie? Okay. What was this? Overview of professional sellings. Wait, so was this 2 lectures? Okay, how do I go to the next module? Yeah, okay, so we ended up knocking out 2 topics. Alright. Sales careers, characteristics, and stages. What was the font size? 16? Helvetica. Okay, we'll do Arial. Okay, So it goes down to 12. And unbolt that. Ooh, 13 minutes, okay.
We'll talk about sales careers, the characteristics and qualifications of sales, jobs, and stages within the sales profession as an occupation. Well, let's look into the characteristics of sales as an occupation. First, we'll start by saying that both consumer and business-to-business companies employ professional salespeople of different levels, but both types of those sales reps are professional. Let's look into job security. Job security means that the security of a job for a sales rep would depend on the competence and the sales skills that the sales rep has. Now, such sales skills are transferable. They're transferable. Salespeople go normally through 4 stages in their careers. Those are exploration, establishment, maintenance, and disengagement. Disengagement, of course, would mean a retirement from the profession. Advancement, opportunity. Sales leads to marketing, then to executive management. Usually the way to product management or brand management is through sales. Compensation, reward. This means such a reward may be the financial or non-financial. There are 3 ways by which to compensate. Pay tied to performance. Performance-based pay. Usually this is by and large the main way by which salespeople are compensated. Career advancement. Career advancement may be in the form of a larger account, a larger territory, some type of promotion, etc. Non-financial compensation would include recognition, gifts, trophies, memberships, etc. Now, effects of inadequate compensation, i.e. lack of performance, absenteeism, grievances, turnover, job dissatisfaction, expressed in the form of psychological withdrawal, stress, anxiety, and poor mental health. Independence. Salespeople practically run their own show, but the more decentralized the organization, the more independent the sales reps are. Independent reps are not compensated on a straight salary basis. Immediate feedback. Immediate feedback has to do with constantly receiving feedback from the customer, and every time a sales rep goes on a sales call, they're able to receive feedback from the customer. Such feedback, immediacy of feedback, is job motivating, and of course it is critical to the company the sales rep works for. Job variety. Job variety has to do with sales and in the form of how rich the various functions of the sales may be. So sales is considered multifaceted, dynamic, non-routine, creative, and it requires high levels of innovativeness. Prestige has been traditionally low. So 30, 40, 50 years ago, salespeople were looked down upon, but such prestige is being restored gradually through the concept of contemporary sales. Now, we used to have salespeople, usually selling, detergents or sweepers or other such consumer items, used to go door to door to make the sale, to make the presentation. Now, such salesmanship was deemed to be high pressure salesmanship and was outlawed by the Consumer Protection Act of 1972. Boundary roles, right? Boundary roles effects here are role conflict, split loyalties between customer and employer, producing role stress for the sales rep. The salesperson must resort to innovative thinking in order to control role stress, to be able to mitigate, right? To mitigate the stress derived from such role conflict. Now, we have to go into previous, attributes of a successful salesperson. There are 4 distinct attributes that underline the likely success of a salesperson. Those are empathy. Empathy means the sales rep should be able to see things the way others would, their customers would. So they should be able to project themselves into the position, the situation of the customer, so that they will be better able to control the customer and understand the customer, in fact. Second is ego drive. Ego drive is the determination to achieve goals. You are determined to achieve your goal, to realize your goal that you have set out to realize. Ego strength, on the other hand, is the degree to which a salesperson is able to achieve those goals. Are you resistant to failure, right? If you resist failure, if you do not get disappointed from failure, then you have ego strength. And the 4th attribute is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm presents the issue of work ethic. Do I have the work ethic of a successful salesperson? Meaning, as I mentioned earlier, the sales people are on their own. They may be out in the field for days at a time. As a result, they set their own goals, and it's up to them to go and realize those goals. So work ethic is very important, and that's how work ethic is represented. The other, last but not least, very important element, an attribute that defines and determines the likely success of a salesperson is interpersonal communication skills. Effective listening is the most important communications skill. Are you a good listener? Are you able to fully understand and speedily understand the customer concerns? How do you get to achieve that? Well, by listening. If you listen, you're able to understand the concerns of the customer. There are 4 factors important for success in sales, therefore. Those are ego strength, ego drive, empathy, and of course verbal communications. Now, enthusiasm is by definition a very important attribute as well.
Okay, cool. Well, that was a pointless email.
Now, skills for success in sales management. To be successful in sales management, you need 3 types of skills. You need selling skills. Selling skills are personal selling skills. Those Those personal selling skills are a prerequisite for sales management. So to become a sales manager, either regional manager, national manager, whatever, you need to have gone through the sales rep level of activity. You need to have field experience. So personal selling is the prerequisite for achieving sales management, and it involves interpersonal communications. Sales, again, is a high visibility function, and it can cause or stress, as we said earlier. Good salespeople earn the customer's trust, and this is invaluable because to earn the trust goes a long way. Trust is a prerequisite to sustaining loyalty, product loyalty, brand loyalty. And then we have the salespeople are involved in the diffusion of innovation. Salespeople are those who actually give the fresh information, primary research information back to their organizations. Now, those are all selling skills. Moving on to number two, second type of skills would be leadership skills, and those are described by the ability to team up, motivate, delegate, and communicate goals. Types of leadership in sales are participative, situational, and flexible. Finally, the third type of skills in sales management are known as conceptual skills, and those are known as a systems approach. Here, the strategy orientation is that the sales leader, the VP in sales, for instance, would be able to visualize, to envision the next stage of sales development, longer term, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, be able to design strategy and formulate the strategy. And it is concerned, this type of conceptual skills approach concerns upper level sales executives because they are involved with conceptual and visionary planning.
Night of what? Everything good? Yep, everything's all good. We're probably gonna go for another hour or so, just so I don't burn out. Let's see, everything working on this end? Yep. Cool, yo. Alright, let's cross that out off the list. Organizing selling activities.
On organizing selling activities. The sales organization structures are very critical. They are difficult to generate an optimum design. And the reason for that is the market is changing 24/7, constantly, highly dynamic, and activities within market cannot be determined. How the market evolves is difficult to determine. So it is difficult to generate an optimum design. However, sales organization structures must focus on accommodating sales activity performance and effective management. They are essential for spurring growth, for bringing growth to the organization, and they are important for reaching strategic goals. For instance, fending off against competition or preventing a competitor from coming into your market. The strategy here must fit structure. Example, here we have IBM, Apple, GM, and American Express have realigned chains of command, teams, and task forces to achieve new strategic goals. Specialization criteria. Specialization criteria are size and complexity of organization demand this format. Sales effort is allocated by product, customer, or function. It achieves better results for the sales organization. Continuing on sales organization structures, centralization. Centralization is defined, is thought as being how decision making is determined in an organization. So how centralized the decision making may be in a given organization. Organizations are both centralized and decentralized. Decentralization is more accommodative, okay, because of communication levels are freer. There is more flow of communication among the various levels within the organization pyramid. And the team collaboration requires decentralization. And as we have already indicated, okay, team selling is one of the characteristics of contemporary selling, right? Team selling. Line versus staff positions. From management, we know that line positions are hierarchical, they are formal, they represent formal authority, and they are accountable for sales tasks being performed. Staff positions, on the other hand, are supportive positions. They are advisory positions. They have an advisory capacity, for instance, recruiting or training. Then we have span of control. Span of control management. The organization is flat. That means there is less span of control, which means in turn the flatter the organization, the less the span of control, the more decentralized, in other words. So tall defines a more so centralized organization. The higher the span, the more centralized the organization is. On to the various types of structures. Geographic is the first one. Geographic organization, position. Team selling. Example, here we have IBM, Apple, GM, and American Express have realigned chains of command, teams, and task force. Team span of this. On to the various types of structures. Geographic is the first one. The flatter the organization, the less the span of control. The more decentralized, in other words. So tall defines a more so centralized organization. The higher the span, the more. The most common type of structure It is least specialized and more generalized. Here, the salesperson under this structure is assigned a geographic area, a region. They are responsible for all selling activities within that territory, that region. Each sales territory is treated as a separate profit center. It is combined with other forms such as product or customer structure. Companies with multiple product lines and depth of assortment use this combined with product specialization. Example here is Textron Industries, which has three geographic divisions in California, Louisiana, and Pennsylvania. By the way, Textron Industries produces precision strike weapons, sensors, and surveillance, aircraft components, and piston engines. They are a DoD supplier, Department of Defense supplier. Second type of sales structure is product. Product, here the salesperson is assigned a specific product or product line for closer attention to it. The objective here of this structure is to develop specialization and product expertise on the given product or product line. The product here is assumed to be technical or complex, so it requires close attention by the sales rep. Products are distributed through different trade channels. Organization is rather flat and decentralized. A separate sales force is assigned to each product or product line. This structure has increased costs. Example of industries or companies that produce adhesives, building materials, and or software. Next we have market structure. The market sales structure. Here the salesperson is assigned a specific type of customers or segments. The salesperson performs all activities for the given customers or segment. The objective here is to acquire knowledge about customers' needs and avoid duplication of people who specialize in the same region. Example would be from the industry would be HP, Hewlett Packard, Xerox, IBM, and others have evolved into this design in an attempt to enhance customer relationships by restructuring their sales forces into industry segments. Next, sales structure is functional. Functional specialization. Here the salesperson performs certain activities, that is pricing or training on the account. An example here would be, for instance, missionary salespeople cultivate. They cultivate the market. They do not produce sales, right? For instance, detailers are those missionary salespeople who specialize in the pharma industry, in the pharmaceuticals industry. They simply provide information to the decision maker. For instance, if they visit a hospital or an MD They will provide information about products, new products coming down the pipeline. Hunters seek to prepare leads, and farmers produce transactions. They produce transactions. This structure is deeper, more responsive to customers' needs. The structure here is again rather decentralized. Often it is used by firms with a small number of similar products, i.e. oligopolies, and structure involves high overhead because management positions are not directly involved in generating sales income. On continuing on the sales structures, the next one is major account. Major account may also be described as a key account or a global account or a national account. They're all the same. They have the same profile. It is a customer-oriented specialization. It may be a separate division. It may be a separate division within the sales organization. Sales activity is concentrated on the account on the basis of two criteria. In other words, two criteria are very important in those accounts, for those accounts. Number one, product complexity. Their product required is highly complex. And second, the account is important because of revenues, profitability, and of some other strategic importance. For instance, if you do not lose this key account, this major account, you will prevent your competitor from coming into your market. So this is the strategic goal that you may be pursuing. The salespeople bear heavier responsibility because they are delegated more authority to negotiate marketing packages, i.e., that is, price, discounts, promotional allowances, customer training, delivery, etc. Example here from the industry are companies such as FedEx, Travelers Insurance, Baxter, which is a healthcare company, and Alcoa. These companies use this particular design. Onto the hybrid structure. This is the final sales structure. Hybrid means this structure is made up of a combination of any of the above structures, that is functional, geographic, product, customer, market, etc. Example, an international company may be organized on function, production, marketing, engineering, geography, domestic, international, customer, consumer, industrial, and product A or B. About the sales organization, this is a contingent approach. Why a contingent approach? Because organizations should be flexible. And that because situations change constantly. We mentioned earlier in an earlier presentation that the market is dynamic. It changes 24/7. The product is usually highly complex, and the customer needs change dynamically as competition increases. On to the selling effort versus selling skill. What is the trade-off between the two? These are two vectors in the same space, two vectors in the same geographical or geometrical rather space. First, an example, airlift pump versus electromagnetic pump. What type of skill or effort do these type of pumps require? Now we know that an airlift pump removes water from mines deep inside the earth from mines. It requires more so selling effort than selling skill. Whereas an electromagnetic pump
Probably
which
heading off soon.
separates
Alright,
and
if you are, have a
processes
good one,
liquid
Night Avoid.
metals
Thanks for tuning in.
used in nuclear reactors requires more so selling skill than selling effort.
Oh my god, okay, this thing is way too dry. It appears the first week is the most intensive in terms of content. There's only one more video that covers 2 more topics. I think I'm actually gonna print this out real quick. Uh-oh. I just turned off my stream manager. This isn't good. Let me reopen it real quick. Huh. Okay, cool. We are back on. Alright. I think I'm gonna end stream here, mostly because I just have one more video that I'm probably gonna see if I can quickly get done. I am so tired. I don't want to do this. But alright, thanks for tuning in. Bye.